Your heart races, your face flushes, and suddenly words fly out of your mouth that you instantly regret. Or perhaps, right before a major career breakthrough, you find a way to sabotage the deal. Once the storm passes, you're left staring at the wreckage, wondering why you acted against yourself. This happens because your brain is a messy, survival-driven system, built layer by layer over millions of years. At the core sit the reptilian and limbic systems, your ancient software. These regions prioritize immediate survival, triggering a millisecond reaction to any perceived threat before your conscious mind even registers the stimulus. Your rational neocortex handles complex planning and logic, but it operates seconds behind your emotions. By the time you start weighing the pros and cons of a situation, your limbic system has already made the decision and set your body in motion. We are emotional creatures who use logic as a thin disguise. Our rational minds spend most of their energy justifying impulses that have already happened, leaving us at the mercy of internal forces we barely understand. These impulses follow a predictable trajectory known as the law of compulsive behavior. This law suggests that your fundamental character takes shape during childhood, forming a set of defaults that guide your adult life. These early experiences create patterns, compulsions that force you to repeat the same mistakes. You might find yourself choosing the same type of unreliable partner, or reacting with the same explosive frustration to minor criticisms, as if following a script you never chose to write. Without an awareness of these tendencies, you stay trapped in an unconscious loop. You may blame external circumstances or a run of bad luck, but the common denominator in these repetitive failures is the character you formed decades ago. Psychologist Carl Jung identified a specific part of this character called the shadow. This is the psychological vaults where you store the parts of yourself you find too shameful or vulnerable to show the world. Burying these traits does not remove them. Instead, repression grants the shadow control over your behavior from the background, where it quietly influences your decisions without your conscious input. When you fear these hidden parts of yourself, you develop a negative mindset. This creates a filter that makes you see threats and limitations everywhere, providing you with a constant stream of reasons to avoid taking risks. If you walk into a social event convinced you don't belong, you will act guarded and defensive. Other people perceive that coldness and keep their distance, which then confirms your internal fear that you are an outsider. Self-sabotage is the shadow creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. By manufacturing failure, your mind keeps you in a familiar state of limitation, avoiding the discomfort of growth or the vulnerability of genuine connection. These individual patterns shift the moment you enter a group. To survive and fit in, you suppress your individual character and adopt a social personality that aligns with the collective. This is the law of role-playing. You switch between different masks to protect your vulnerabilities from competitors and peers. As Arthur Schopenhauer noted, we rarely show more than one side of ourselves to others at any given time. Groups also trigger emotional contagion. In a crowd, you mirror the anxiety or excitement of those around you, often at the expense of your own values. You find yourself agreeing with ideas you'd normally question, simply because the room feels certain. This collective pressure forces your repressed traits to surface in toxic ways. Because you are performing for the group, your hidden insecurities leak out as active envy, backhanded compliments, and passive aggression toward anyone who threatens your status. If you remain unaware of how groups alter your behavior, you become a puppet. Your actions are dictated by the fickle whims of the crowd rather than your own judgment. You can intercept these patterns by creating a pause between a stimulus and your reaction. When you feel a surge of emotion, you must consciously stop before the impulse turns into an action. Naming the emotion and asking why you feel it gives your slow, rational neocortex the time it needs to catch up. This brief delay allows your logical mind to override the primal limbic response that leads to regret. Breaking the cycle requires integration. Instead of fighting your darker impulses, you learn to use their energy for your own benefit. For example, you can practice practical grandiosity. You take the raw, repressed aggression that might otherwise turn into envy and channel it into a disciplined, focused ambition to achieve a specific goal. Psychological power comes from this flexibility. By accepting your full spectrum of traits, you transform from a creature of reaction into an individual capable of making strategic choices. The most common pattern that keeps us stagnant is short-sightedness. We chase immediate rewards like status or pleasure because our biology demands instant gratification, but this drift usually ends in a sense of aimlessness. Overcoming this biological urge for the quick win requires a commitment to long-term goals. Leaders like Elon Musk maintain a vision that spans decades, using the rational mind to override the pain of short-term mockery and the fear of failure. We often avoid this long-term focus by distracting ourselves with petty social drama. This is the law of death denial, the habit of filling our days with noise to avoid the reality that our time is limited. Fully accepting the reality of your mortality acts as a powerful filter. When you remember that your time will end, the desire to conform to the crowd or worry about a stranger's judgment disappears. Understanding human nature allows you to recognize these patterns as they happen. By observing the hidden forces within yourself, you gain the ability to choose your own path and finally author your own life.